Disease was rife in the medieval period, so people put a strong importance on looking clean and healthy. Your skin, your hair and your cleanliness was a visual barometer of your wealth and status. The medieval period encompassed many centuries, from the 5th centuries with the Anglo-Saxons up onto the early 16th centuries with the early Tudors. Today we're looking at hair and beauty from the 14th century. The 14th century in England was a period of change. The Black Death resulted in the death of a third of the population. The Peasants' Revolt required fairer laws for labourers, and also urban towns were expanding, so there was more commercial production.
Some of us might think that during the medieval period, they didn't have enough time or money to keep clean. How true is this?
Well, that's not necessarily true. We know that in the medieval period, they were actually quite clean. They were advised to clean their hands and their face, and they would also bath, and they would bath in private baths, public bathhouses, or running bodies of water like rivers. People in the medieval period also had soap too, and in fact, everyone had soap apart from the poorest people in society. There were lots of recipes from the time for having clean, clear skin. You wanted to show that you were free from illness and also that you were wealthy enough not to be working in the fields.
So who would then have access to these recipes used to clear the skin?
Some recipes you could make at home with homegrown items such as animal fat or milk, but then some recipes did require more expensive items such as resins or lead, which you'd get from the apocryphy, and this was only for the wealthy of the society. Recipe examples would be chemical peels, such as using onions, or recipes to lighten skin, which used plants, and also there would be animal fat elements to the recipes too.
Okay, so my skin would be clean and clear, but what about my hair?
In the medieval period, it was fashionable to have really long, beautiful blonde hair, but you could also have black hair too, but you wouldn't want to have red hair as that looked suspicious.
So how many times did they wash their hair?
So in some medieval manuscripts, they advised to wash your hair once every 3 weeks, but you would keep your hair clean otherwise by using a comb.
I'm actually quite shocked that they are washing their hair every 3 weeks, just for the simple effort of getting the water to your home and heating it up.
I know, it is quite surprising, but one way that they really kept their hair clean is with a comb, to comb through the hair and get rid of lice and dirt. So one side has thin teeth, so imagine your Nick comb from school, and the other side has a wide set of teeth, and that would be to keep your hair nice and smooth. The first recipe that we're going to make today is kind of a leave-in conditioner, or almost like a hair oil. For making hair long, grind root of marshmallow with pork grease, and you should make it boil for a long time in wine. That's the first part of the recipe. For this recipe, there were no instructions of how much you needed, so I just kind of found my way through it. So I'm using half a block of lard and 500 millilitres of wine, and it goes, and then 2 or 3 spoonfuls of marshmallow root.
What is marshmallow root?
Marshmallow root is a medicinal plant that you can find in England, and you use the root in cosmetic recipes for the mucilage element of it. This means that when you're making a product, it gets that kind of thick jelly-like element to it.
Oh, so it's going to be great on my dry and curly hair.
Yes. I just need to put this on the boil now, and it's going to take about 35 minutes for it to change. After, put in well-ground cumin, mastic, and well-cooked egg yolks and mix them together a little.
So with my modern mindset, using lard, egg yolks and white wine isn't something that I would typically put on my hair.
Yeah, I don't think you would either, but luckily the cumin and the mastic will make it smell okay. For this, you don't actually need much mastic.
What is mastic?
Mastic is resin from an evergreen tree in Greece, and it's just used in the recipe for sort of smell, but you can use it outside of this recipe for your teeth. Pop that in the bowl. And then I'm going to use about a teaspoon of cumin. The recipe calls for egg yolks, but I already boiled the eggs and took the white away, which is why I've just got the yolk here now. and just going to crush them up a bit. And once the other part of the recipe has boiled away, we'll be able to put it in. This is now finished boiling and it's boiled down to this mixture. What do you think?
Oh wow, it's looking not that appealing. It looks like brown sludge. I'm not sure I want to put that on my hair.
Well, luckily we won't be putting this on your hair. We're going to strain it using this bowl and this cloth. So what you can see is that some of the marshmallow root and the egg yolk is still on top, but the oils have separated. So there should be a clear liquid once we've strained it. And then that liquid will then be cooled down and we'll use that to put on your hair.
Well, that sounds much more appealing.
Yes. Okay, I'm just going to give it a squeeze and then we'll see what liquid we've got underneath. So this is a liquid now. It's the oil which has taken out stuff from the egg and the protein from the egg and other parts of the plants that we used, but it's going to cool down and solidify.
I can see that you've made this recipe from this book, but where does it come from?
This recipe is from the Trotula. The Trotula is a collection of 3 Latin texts which were around in the medieval period. They circulated around from the 12th century to the 15th century, and they were also translated into different languages. The Trotula is thought to be written by one woman from Salerno in Italy, but actually we don't really know who wrote it. It's often thought of now that the first and the last texts are written by a man, but that's not to say that he didn't get his recipes from women in the area.
Wow, so this is likely then that this is a recipe for women's hair that was actually written by women.
Yes, we think so. So this recipe is actually from the third text in the Trotula, which is on women's cosmetics, which talks about beautifying the body from head to toes. So there's recipes that are looking at the skin, the hair, and also parts of the body like the genitalia. There's also a strong Arabic influence on the text, and we know this because some of the recipes were referenced to have been made by a noble Muslim woman.
Wow, that's really fascinating because even in this period, it's showing how interconnected the world was.
I know we often think about just connections through trade, but it shows that there was actually a knowledge exchange between different people as well. So here is the final product that we're going to use. You can see that it has solidified.
It looks rather like a cream that I would use on my hair now.
And it doesn't actually smell that bad.
No, I can smell just a hint of lard, but I can definitely get the scent of the cumin coming through.
Yeah. Shall we give it a go?
Let's.
Okay. And we're now going to have to wet your lovely clean hair, if that's okay. So in the recipe it says, having washed the head well, we now anoint it with it.
So it feels quite sticky, and it does feel strange that I am putting lard and eggs on my hair.
So it's all on your hair now. Would you like me to comb it through for you?
Yes, please.
Seems to be going through your hair quite easily. This comb is made out of wood, but there were also combs made out of ivory in the medieval period, and they were given as gifts to people so you could think about your lover while you were combing your hair.
And did everybody have combs, or was it just the elites that had combs?
So we think that everyone would have had combs. Ones like these wooden ones don't survive that well in the archaeological record, but we do have a lot of the ivory combs which the elites would have been using.
So my hair is feeling quite silky and soft, a little bit greasy, and it does smell of lard, but I'm sure when it's dry, my locks are going to look really luscious and smooth.
Well, luckily, the next recipe we make will make you smell a lot better, and you'll look wonderful by the end as well.
Good.
We just need you to dry your hair, so if you'd like to have a cup of tea, go dry your hair, and once you're back, we can start again. So your hair is looking great, and the next recipe we're going to do is also from the Trotula, and it's a powder to make your hair smell nice. It says, but when she combs her hair, let her have this powder. Take some dried roses, clove, nutmeg, watercress, and galangal, and let all these powdered be mixed with rose water. So into the bowl, we've got to put all our spices. And when I'm making this mixture, it's all done by scent. So I'm just going to keep smelling it as I go along to see what it smells like. Now this is the nutmeg. This is the clove. This is galangal.
I was just thinking that a lot of these ingredients wouldn't have been grown in England, so they must have been imported.
Yes, it is definitely a hair powder for wealthy people. If you think about the spices and where they come from, they're from different countries and they have to be brought over on a boat. So the trade and the travel means that they're expensive. This recipe you can use as a powder like this, but it also says to use it with rose water. So I'm going to put the mixture in, but I'll add the rose water before I do so. And you find that it actually just ends up smelling like rose. So I may need to just mix in some more of the spices. Okay. It smells just like rose to me. What do you think?
Yeah, I can smell the rose now. It's definitely overpowering.
Just going to put in a bit more of the spice and the watercress.
This is an expensive recipe, but quite a simple one.
It seems like a simple one because we've got all the powders ground up now, but you have to remember that the roses need to be dried, the watercress needs to be dried, and you need to grind all the different spices. So it's not as easy to make or as quick to make as we've just done now. Should we give it a go?
Let's.
So in the recipe, it says that you need to put your comb into the rose water and the powder, and then you put that through your hair. So I'm just making sure it's all the way through. I'm going to do it on the thin side as I think it will spread more on your hair.
So this is safe to put on my hair because it contains ingredients like rose and nutmeg. But during this period, there were recipes that contained toxic things like lead.
That's right, yes. And there were other stuff as well. So toxic ingredients like lead or quicklime, but there were also toxic plants that were used as well. One of them was sow-bread, which causes irritation to the skin, and bryony as well also causes irritation to the skin. But another kind of spooky, horrible element to Tudor and medieval recipes is the animal products that were put in. So if you wanted to dye your hair black, you could do that with some green lizards if you wanted to. And there were also some recipes that used animals for the skin, such as cow marrow, cuttlefish, and dove dung, which was used to make the face white.
Well, I'm very pleased that you are not using those on my skin.
Your hair is done. How does it smell?
Oh, it smells lovely. I can smell the rose, and it's also masked the smell of the cumin in the hair, conditioner. It's lovely. So we've focused a lot on the hair on my head, but what about body hair?
Well, that is an interesting thing because in the medieval period, people did get rid of their body hair. So you could have body hair in pubic places where obviously lice could be. So some of the medieval women would have removed their body hair.
Wow, that is fascinating because I just assumed in that time they did not shave any of their body hair off.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that they got from abroad. So when the knights went crusading, they saw lots of Muslim women without hair on their body. And then that influenced fashion back in medieval Europe. So you'd think that they would do it using wax, perhaps, but they did have some sort of gruesome recipes as well.
Like what?
So one of them was using quicklime, and it said to make sure you remove it from your body before it has an intense heat.
So a little bit like hair removal cream.
Exactly, yes. Having long and beautiful, luxurious hair was a thing of beauty, but there was a tension between having beautiful hair and wanting your hair to be beautiful. Sometimes people thought that if you wanted to have beautiful hair and you groomed it often, it was a sign of vanity and sin. But we don't need to worry about that today. What we're going to do now is we're going to braid your hair, put it up and cover it with a veil.
Did all women cover their hair?
I think we think about the medieval period of everyone having their hair covered, but actually that wasn't the case. If you weren't married, you could have your hair down and on show, and this was signifying your availability for a husband and also your fertility. If you had your hair covered, it was meant to show that you were married and respectable. So if you didn't have your hair covered, it showed that you were going outside the social norms. And one type of people that did go outside the social norms were nuns, and they actually had their hair shaved off to show that they were going to become Christ's bride, but their head would also be covered too. So we're going to style your hair like the 14th century, and the way that this worked was you'd have your hair divided in the middle and a middle parting, and then we'll separate your hair onto both sides and we'll plait both sides and then we'll loop them round up.
How do we know about these styles?
There's lots of different ways that we know about these hairstyles. You can see them in manuscripts where there's drawings, but there's also paintings from the time period and funeral effigies that show the different hairstyles. The 14th century was often seen as the start of fashion because the middle class were having more money. And what they wanted to do, as is the case in most time periods, if you have more money, you want to look like you're expensive and wealthy, so you dress the way the elites do. And the elites didn't want poor people dressing like them, so they kept changing their fashions. These hairstyles required women to have long, thick, luxurious hair like your hair, but not everyone had that. So what they did is that they used false hair. False hair could be made from wool, animal hair, or even human hair. But false hair doesn't really survive in the archaeological record because it's an organic material, so it degrades and disintegrates. We do have an example of one piece of false hair in the London Museum, and this is a set of hair braids, much like yours, but longer, and one is long and the other one is a short braid.
Wow, so this really does show then that not all women had long hair in this period.
Yes. Now we've got your plaits in, we're going to make you look a bit like Princess Leia, if that's okay. And I'm going to loop your hair round in a bun, and I'm going to use some medieval hairpins to do this. Pins were one of the most used accessories in the medieval period for hair. They were originally made from bone, but after the 12th century, they were made of stuff like pewter, and they could also have glass heads or jasper heads to be decorative. Okay. It feels secure?
Yeah, feels great.
Great, so your hair is looking beautiful in buns. In the Trotula, it also says that you can make your hair smell even better by putting cloves or musk into your hair underneath your veil or on top of your veil. But we're not going to be using musk today because that's from an endangered species. So what we're going to use are some cloves. They're going to be hidden in your hair. And luckily your hair is the same colour, so you can't really see them.
The cloves smell lovely.
Great. The next part of the look is the hairnet. Hairnets could be made from stuff such as flax, so linen, but they could also be made of gold as well. So the look we're going for today is from the Luttrell Psalter, which is a 14th century manuscript, which is a book of psalms, and it was made for Sir Geoffrey Luttrell in the 1320s to the 1340s. And one of the images shows a woman with a hair like yours with a long veil. So I was trying to figure out how to do the veil, but I ended up realizing that 2 veils is probably easier to have a short bit at the front and a long bit at the back. It's going to go here. And now, in the image, it has a fillet, and we're going to put this one on. So I might need your help if that's okay. Yep. Then if you just hold there, I'm going to use some pins, and these are what the pins would have looked like. Great, all done. Just straighten up. How do you feel?
Like a queen.
Would you like to have a look?
I would love to.
Let me just get the mirror. So this is actually what some of the mirrors would have looked like in the medieval period. They would have been made out of ivory, and they were sometimes given as gifts, and they have images of lovers on the back. So here you go.
Wow, I really do feel like a medieval queen. A lot of work and money has gone into this look, and just the aroma of the cloves, nutmeg and rose. I think I certainly smell like a queen.
Yes, and I think you really do dispel that idea that medieval people smelt bad when actually they could smell beautiful like you do now.